Chatting Up the Chick, a podcast with a twist. Yes. I'm here with my main understain. That's Philip Janssens. He is gonna be bigging you up and throwing all kinds of craziness in your face. Philip, say hello to the people.
Yeah, good day, guys.
So I don't know where that voice came from. That was my old school radio voice. So I do apologise.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I appreciate that. So today we are here doing this new podcast called Chatting Up the Chick. Now, I came up with this concept a long time ago, and my idea was that I wanted to get in touch with old friends or new friends and find out about them and catch up with their lives and all kinds of stuff. And then I decided, well, sod that. Let's bring Philip Janssens in for the ride, and actually he can be my co-host. Right. So what we're hoping to do in the future is bring people onto this podcast just to basically give them
help.
Give them help, yeah. We're not the place to come to for that. But it's to give them a platform to be able to talk about their own lives, and it also gives me an opportunity to catch up with people I haven't spoken to for in a long time. And it's kind of based around spirituality mixed in with socio issues of the world, with some crap advice coming from us too. So sure. Take it or leave it. You know what I'm saying?
Take it with a grain of salt, really.
Well, yeah, unless you're diabetic.
Yeah.
Take it with some sugar.
Wait. So you wanted to talk about other people, but yet the show is called Chatting Up the Chick. I feel like it's more like I should be chatting you up, right?
Well, it could be Chatting Up the Chicks. There you go. Well, how's that sound? Then
okay.
All inclusive for you as well.
Right.
Sorry, I don't want to miss you out. Don't cry, please. So would you like to introduce our first subject that we're going to be talking about today, Phils?
Sure. Well, the topic we will cover will be the coronavirus, the current situation where we are sitting in lockdown.
What's that? Tell me, please. I've no idea what you're talking about.
You don't know? You don't sit in lockdown right now? You're not at home?
No, I was told I'm going to go home. They said they're going to pay me. I was like, sweet.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. I'll go home and do podcasts with that is non-working.
Yeah, this is my lunch hour, by the way. This is my lunch hour.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we are in lockdown due to this epidemic that is ripping through the world. Started out in China, whether you believe that or not. But, you know.
The Chinese virus, according to
Chinese virus, yeah.
Man.
And from, I guess, the beginning, most of the world dismissed it as a mere common cold, but now it's become a full-wide, worldwide epidemic with many casualties and all sorts of conspiracies being generated in the process, as you would expect.
Yes, I've heard one conspiracy that it's created 3-headed chickens.
I'm pretty sure that's Hiroshima.
Who's that? Is that your last girlfriend?
Well, that's not Hiroshima, but I think that's.
I mean Hiroshima.
Nuclear plant blowing up.
Nuclear plant? You mean a nuclear bomb?
No,
you mean
nuclear plant in the big wave that.
Oh yeah, that was Fukushima. That was Fukushima.
That's it. Sorry,
swear at me.
Words confused. It's all very similar.
Should be calling me a fucker papa.
That's it. You're on the list. But yeah, we are experiencing that. We are currently in our last few days of lockdown here in New Zealand, Christchurch. So we are just, wasting our time, I guess, on our lunch breaks to trying to do this thing, I guess, or you being productive in other ways, I guess, but whatever's. But yeah, we've been in lockdown for about 4 weeks.
And can I ask, Phil, how's that been for you personally?
Not too bad. I would have enjoyed it if I didn't have to work, but yeah, I've had to stare at the screen majority of that time, which has made my eyes a little bit baggy, as you can tell. But I'm sure Chris is even worse. That's why he's hiding his camera. But let's not.
Look, because we're going to be talking about socio and probably economical issues, let's just cut to the chase straight away.
Sure.
I live in poverty. All right? I can't afford a bloody camera. What's your problem? Are you gonna how
Afford
the
or
rest of your
don't
life?
want the camera because you're scared?
I'm scared. Yeah, I'm scared of people realizing how old I am.
How I
Maybe
do
they'll think, oh, he sounds young. He sounds young. I
it.
don't want to see a picture.
Punky energy.
Spunky. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, how's it been for you?
Yeah, no, it's been. To be honest, it's been fine. Yeah, I enjoy that I can I can work. Well, I can get up around whatever hour I want and start doing work, and as long as I look like I'm doing work, everyone's pretty happy, and gives me the freedom to go and do other stuff other times, as long as I maintain the quota of my work. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I think some of the people that are around me have been feeling they've been imprisoned as such, but I personally enjoy it. So
I'll tell you what, being able to look like you're busy is an art in itself.
certainly is.
I succeed with an A plus, especially at my work, as long as I've got a cup of coffee or I'm walking around with some papers.
Yeah.
But the key is to look slightly confused on your face.
It's like you're thinking, but you're just confused about what you're thinking about. But you're really not thinking anything.
I'm known as the loiterer at work. Oh, here he comes. The loiterer.
But anyway, let's get into some questions around this topic.
Yes. So what we did for the listeners is that we decided, as part of this podcast, it will be good to, rather than just having a random discussion that really kind of, well, let's be honest, most of them go on tangents and go nowhere.
Not even.
We'd actually make a point of putting some questions down to give a bit of structure. Something that my life doesn't have, especially at the moment. Do you know what? Right, let me tell you. I'm going to go on a tangent. Let me tell you about structure. Right, when I'm at work, I have a perfect structure to the point where I am regular 3 times a day. 3 times, right? At the moment, I'm lucky to be once. I'm worried about my internal system.
Internal system.
And I'm worried about me plumbing as well.
Your house plumbing or your internal plumbing?
I see this one's gone right over your head. Anyway, on to your question. The tangents, It went nowhere. It was just a piece of crap.
Piece of crap? Well, who's a piece of crap?
Well, that's talking about me plumbing crap. Anyway, you're
right. Yeah, right. Anyway, Chris.
Yes, that's me. Hello.
Yes.
I'm the chick.
You, the chick that I'm trying to chat up. Anyway, what would be the stats? Let me just pull this up here quickly.
Are you telling me you haven't even done your homework?
No. I was going to do this on the fly a little bit. Some things are on the fly because I don't want to just be like,
I could draw on the screen right now. Draw all over your face with green, just to show how.
I feel offended. Okay. What is the current death rate in Bosnia?
Bosnia. Oh, mate, this is easy. Look, I have. Let me just change the accent slightly. I have a very nice family from Bosnia. They always speak to me every night, and they tell me all the important things about Bosnia. So I believe that the rate of death in Bosnia is...
related to convict, of course.
Related to convicts. Well,
convict 19 years.
I would say 0.7%.
I wanted the death rate, not the percentage.
Oh, the death rate. Oh, how many people?
So how many people have died?
67.
Oh, that's actually pretty close. But you're wrong.
Yeah, bugger.
What
was it? 54. Oh, no, I wasn't too far away.
Yeah.
All right, your question. Can you catch, and this, by the way, is not only an important question, but it's also educational.
Sure.
Can you catch COVID-19 twice?
No.
Oh, well, according to some sources, you can. There has been apparently people that have caught it twice.
That's bullshit. They just want something they just want free food from the hospital. It's probably like,
I can't believe you just swore. My podcast. I'm going to have to bleep that out with some
the
sort
way
of...
you bleep something out, mate. You're gonna have to. The way we carry on.
Fucking bull crud.
Nah, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. That my first guess, from what I know about COVID, is that no. Once you go through it, once you build up some sort of immunity to it, right? Unless you get exposed really horrifically and your immunity is nowhere near strong enough, then maybe you could possibly catch it again and go through the symptoms. But my understanding is not really, no.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, some people have caught it twice. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Look, I'm no scientist, which is probably a good thing.
Well, I don't know.
Scientific community, let's be honest.
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware of. There is a meme that is very much related to what you just said, but we won't get into that.
Is it about Donald Trump? I love Donald Trump. He's my favorite.
Donald Trump. Oh, mate. I have a question about America actually later on. I was just trying to start off easy with my questions and just leading into something a bit more heavy and more controversial as we like to fly.
More lead induced, is it?
Yes. More radiation, mate. But yeah.
Just like your face. Anyway, what's
This show's become chatting up the chick to insult the Jansons.
Look, let's be honest, this is what's going to happen, all right? Everyone must get used to it.
Jeez, mate, jeez. All right, question number 2. If there was a conspiracy that would revolve around this COVID-19, what would that be? Like, what have you heard, or what would you reckon it be?
It's the three-headed chicken, mate. The three-headed chicken. It's the big one. Look, Wuhan. Look, I've got friends in Wuhan, all right? No, actually, that's a lie. But I do have friends. Well, no, that's a lie as well. The three-headed chicken. I'm just going. That's final answer. Bob, Jim, Frank, Mike, whatever your name is.
Phil, but
Oh, sorry. Oh, hello, Philip Janssens. I've got question number 2 for you, right? And I'm going to do it in my best Welsh accent. No, I'm not really.
I hope you're not. No, I thought that was a joke.
Indian. Right, as of the 21st of April, who had the most and least cases in New Zealand? What areas of New Zealand? As in, like the counties or the what do you call them in the
States?
Yeah,
No.
like the states. We call them different in this country. I can't remember. Provinces. There you go. Yeah. So who has the most and who has the least?
Ooh. I think it was Auckland had the most. Wellington was the most? Wow.
Well, guess.
The least would have been... Oh, we're talking about provinces, eh? I don't even know all the provinces. What? There's no Canterbury.
You donut.
Yeah. Otago would have been the least.
No, because they had Dunedin University, which was ravaged with COVID at the beginning.
Really?
Yeah, they're one of the highest. I think they had more cases than Canterbury. But anyway, the most was actually Waikato.
Waikato.
Yeah.
Wow.
With 84 cases, and the least was Wairarapa.
I don't even know that was a province.
Actually has no cases. It's probably because it's only got about 10 people living in
probably,
that whole.
yeah, and that's probably why I heard of it as well. So.
Though sadly, the West Coast, right,
Yeah,
has only had one case, and that person died, which is quite sad, really. Yeah. Anyway, your next question. Question number 3.
Okay, question number 3. What do you reckon about the current state of America?
Mate, we've only earmarked 30 minutes for this podcast. Are you taking the piss? You
No.
or me? What can I just say? What's right?
Well, no, it's just the current state. How do you picture it? Like, what do you currently think about it? What's your thoughts on just in a general term, and a big picture kind of, not only looking at Trump, but not only looking at certain individuals or groups, but just as a country sense. What do you think of America currently, and where it's at with content?
Well, I suppose I'll have to be serious here because I put my serious voice. Whoa! That was a big dog. Is that your dog?
Yeah, that's my dog.
Nice. Right, I'll go back to your serious voice. I spent 4 years living in America, so I have a small but significant experience of what American life is like, and I know how polarized that country is. So it's not really surprising to me the state of affairs in America. Like in terms of when you look at the world, like their stats are atrocious. Like they are bad. Like it's nearly almost like 500,000 people that are infected. That's nuts. Like I know there's 300 million people living there anyway, so percentage wise it's only what 1% or even less than that. But 500,000, like even like I don't agree with China and their way of doing life and whatnot, but at least they had the announce to shut things down, and they only in the end I think they've only had 90,000 or so cases.
Yeah.
So the fact that America, who are supposed to be leading the so-called free world in regards to doing things better, well, the stats tell different. You know what I mean? Like,
well, they are leading something. They are leading in terms of how many. Maybe they're going for the opposite approach. Instead of trying to lock everybody down, they just want like some people say, the community immunity, essentially.
Community immunity. That's I could see it.
Well, there is such a thing out there that a lot of people believe that is that you need to do that. You need to just let it rip through the community, and it builds up that that immunity to it, and then everything's fine. Every time that comes through, it'll be fine. But the good thing, and if anyone does listen to this podcast, the one thing that maybe my mum, the one hello mum, the one thing that we do have in favour here in New Zealand is that we do have good leadership. No matter what you think about the policies and the political stance of the current leadership, the fact of the matter is they show good leadership, and so we have managed to stem what could possibly have been a big issue that has been a big issue for other countries, like Ireland is comparable to New Zealand.
roughly the same population. All right, they have a smaller land mass, but they're technically an island. But they have, like, we've had close to 1,500 cases. They've had almost, I think it's 15,000.
Wow.
They've had about 3,500 deaths, whereas we've only had 15, I think now.
No,
But same.
For the same what?
But say for the same size kind of country, and same kind of, like, it's a very similar country to New Zealand. Like the difference in stats is insurmountable. It's like, wow, it's a massive gap between. And I don't put it down to bad leadership per se for Ireland, because they're, in terms of their demographics, they live a lot closer to each other than like we do here in New Zealand, especially here in the South Island. There's only 1 million people within a landmass that's the size of the UK almost, smaller. But like their prime minister, like, fair play to him. He is actually a doctor, and what he did was he re-signed up to do his doctor work, so he could actually go into the hospitals and help with the COVID. Yeah. So to say they got bad leadership would be a misnomer from my perspective, because you've got a leader who's actually showing true leadership style by actually getting on the front line and helping out.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting with the current. If you look at certain countries that have similar confirmed cases to, say, for like us, it's interesting to watch how many other countries are doing like just as good as us, or maybe just a little bit less than good with us, and then some other countries are doing really, really bad, where their recovery rates are really horrible and their death rates are a lot higher than ours. And it's just interesting to see how there seems to be some sort of differences in between countries that that are experiencing some of these things. And I can't really say for certainty which what is the cause of all that, but it's definitely interesting to see that like here in New Zealand we have almost everybody recovered by looking at it today's stats, but compared to some like somewhere else in the world where there's same amount of people confirmed, but they don't have nearly the same amount of recovered, or the same amount of deaths. If they're typically less in recovered and higher in deaths. So yeah, I don't know. It's very hard to say what's actually going on, but yeah, good point.
Sweet. Right, my question for you, Mr. Phillips Janssens, the Latvian lover. Right, you'll like this one.
You couldn't do it, eh? You couldn't just go without taking the Mickey, could you?
Mate, take the piss.
Now that Vincent's not here, you've directed your attentions at me.
It's lucky you can't see my face, which is good for the listeners.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
my question: if the virus could talk, what would it sound like? I'm looking forward to this one.
Right.
You don't have to do it yourself. You could say, I reckon it would sound like Denzel Washington in Training Day. He shot me in the ass. Was that Denzel? Yeah, it was Denzel, wasn't it? He shot me in the ass. I'm sure it was Denzel Washington.
I think you're just making shit up on the spot. But anyway, no, I have a particular. Oh man, I just feel like there's this creepy sort of slithery kind of like voice that kind of like. I could try to attempt it, but I think I'm going to fail miserably.
So it would more or less sound like how I sound.
You know the penguin of the Batman, like the penguin, like the in the movie Batman. There was like the old school Batman, and they had the penguin in it. It was like this short, fat dude.
Yeah.
That's how it sounds like.
Well, I was thinking more during my days of going to clubs and talking into the ear of a young one.
Which young one?
Whoever
What
had
are you
the
talking about here?
whoever had the misfortune of me talking to in a club, like a young lady.
Oh, you're talking.
All right, love. Yeah, I just wanted to know if you wanted to have a dance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's how I think the virus would sound.
I'm just coming into your body. Is that all right? I just want to have a little look around, have a little fiddle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, that's the virus. That wasn't me talking to the women.
I can totally see you doing that.
Oh, jeez. I hope people don't think that I was some sort of a lurch.
I think you need to edit that out realistically, because what you said and how you sounded will raise some eyebrows. But anyway,
It's in the clubs, don't worry.
So now that we got that out of the way,
moving on swiftly.
Okay, question number 4. What? Okay. What company do you think, for all these entrepreneurs out there, what company do you think would be good to invest in at the moment with the current
N95 masks? Latex gloves. And New World supermarket.
New World Supermarket.
And they're making a shitload of money, let's be honest.
Yeah, okay, but that's like the obvious ones. I thought you'd be a bit more creative. I mean, thinking about
you now. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint.
Well, yes. Well, no, I was just thinking like you could quite easily like there'll be some other companies out there that be thinking about how world is going to be like after after the lockdown finishes and everybody goes semi back to normal, and what companies would be flourishing in that time. It'd be a good investment right now to invest in those companies, right? I guess I'm just wondering what would your idea of what company would that be?
My friend, you should know me by now that the whole investment and stock market kind of crap really doesn't interest me. It's the scourge of this planet. But if you was to press me, I would say invest in sustainable companies who look after this planet. So who use look to make packaging out of hemp. Put your money into hemp farming. Shit, yeah, let's do that. Everyone, if you're listening, put your money into hemp farming. Get these hemp farmers producing more hemp so we can make hemp packaging, because hemp has multiple uses. We're going to do a podcast on hemp, mate, because hemp lovely. I love hemp. Yum yum. Hemp. I'm going to do a sound bite for this podcast as I yeehaw hemp.
We also have a druggie on the show, but hey.
Dude, hemp is not a drug. What is wrong with you?
I am fully aware. All right, mate.
It is a cousin of the cannabis plant, and the most that some hemp plants in terms of THC have is about 3%, which doesn't even tickle your little toe.
Says the drug addict. Says every other drug addict.
You're implicating me with some sort of a tag there, Phillips. You'll be hearing from my attorney soon. Don't worry. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you'll be hearing from my attorney from all the abuse you
can't afford my mate, you're just more poverty than I am. All right, next question. Right, it's my question, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Right, nice and easy. Are you afraid of this virus?
Yes.
You are? All right, expand. Unpackage that for me. Why?
Well, I mean, it's one thing like being in lockdown and hearing about all the stats and all the things that have been said about it. But I think it's a totally different, experience when you do actually contract something like that. And, you don't really know, I personally think that I'm a really good, healthy person, but, I don't really know that. And I think the coronavirus would be a good test for your immunity and your how good your body is, and all these other things. And I personally, I just don't think it's needed, and I don't really want to experience anything like that. I like to keep healthy because I want to avoid most of those things. So yes, I am to a point scared of it because I don't I don't want to contract it, and then I also don't want to be a carrier because I'd like to interact with people and not be in isolation for a set amount of time even further. So
Well, especially since you have a vulnerable person in your house as well.
yeah, correct. Yeah, that too as well. So I mean, well, everybody becomes vulnerable at that point that's surrounding me. So that's
well, of course,
yeah.
That's a good point to make actually. That everyone technically is vulnerable because you just don't know what the circumstances are how they're gonna play out. Like, I'm the same as you. I'm not really afraid per se because I think most of the fear comes from the potential of death. Whereas I've come to peace with my mortality. So
freedom,
freedom from death. Jesus.
No, I was just quoting the Braveheart.
But I'm also very aware of the fact that even though I'm personally, and look, it's easy to say you're not afraid, but if it actually came down to it, would I not be? Well, I'd like to think I wouldn't be afraid, but you just don't know. But I'm more afraid of passing it on to someone who is afraid, if that makes sense. So that's my fear, is passing it on to someone. But do you know anyone who's
somebody else's fear?
Yes. But do you know of anyone who's contracted it?
No.
Oh, okay, I do.
Do you?
I do, yes. I do. Actually, just to kind of tell a little story. Just a couple of weeks ago, because I've been doing civil defence work, as you well know, for the local council, and I got a phone call from my wife who said that my wife, she's been she actually missed, saying that I needed to go into self-isolation. I was like, what the hell? What, are you taking the piss, love? And she said, no, I've just had the COVID-19 test. I'm like, huh? So I had to go into self-isolation for 24, 36 hours before my wife got the result back. And the result came back. Well, you're going to have to tune into the next episode to find out.
The jerker.
Yeah, no, it came back negative as I knew it would, but still, it was at that point it all kind of became real for 24 hours because being look, I'm rebellious by nature, but because of the situation, having working in civil defence and thus being exposed to people because I was doing food deliveries and picking up stuff and taking it to people's houses and whatnot. So there was the chance of cross contamination. So at that 24 hours, it really hit home for me. I was like, oh wow, actually, like, what if it comes back positive? Like, how's that now going to change everything? Like, how am I going to start looking at like the whole situation? So for 24 hours.
Undies.
Mate, I've got plenty of undies. To be honest,
contaminated though.
To be honest though, most of them, if they did get contaminated, it would just go straight through to the floor because my undies are so well used now that the hole just gets bigger.
There is no undies. It's just an elastic strap.
It just covers the meat and 2 veg. That's all.
That's right.
Funny. All right. Next question.
Sorry.
Next question.
Last question. I think I believe it is. Real easy. what is the first thing that you're gonna do after this lockdown finishes? Like in your spare time, of course, not obviously work or whatever, but
Mate, I am going to invest in the local brewery. Help them get them back on their feet.
So
I haven't really thought about that, to be honest. I think it's important to celebrate freedom again, because I think people will
celebrate. Come on. Huh?
Please don't ever do that again. Especially when I'm talking. All right, son. Yeah, I think it's important for people to celebrate the moment, but not. My hope is that people just don't go back to normal, and I'm glad. I'm actually optimistic, because a lot of what I see on social media and in conversations I've had with my friends, family, and just random people. Like, I had a random conversation with a woman yesterday. I won't go into it, but she was nuts. But it was nice, because this person, like, she may already be
You like me?
she might already be like a progressive thinker and whatnot, but she was talking to me in a way that gave me a lot of optimism for the future, in the sense of that people are going to come out of this with a new look in how life is done. My hope is that people will start to be more minimalistic rather than consumeristic and materialistic, because we've just, by being in this lockdown, we've proven that you can still have an existence, and a happy existence, or joyful existence, in a very minimalistic sense. Like, I'm not saying to people, don't stop, going on holidays, or don't stop, splurging out if you want to get a new car or whatever. That's, I understand those kind of drives, but even if we can just like stop it by a third of the kind of consuming that we've been doing, I reckon the benefits for ourselves, like for our mental health, for the planet, just spiritually as well, it'll go up tenfold.
Yeah, fully agree.
Did I answer the question, or did I just go into a tangent?
I think you kind of went on a tangent there. I think the closest you got to was investing into a brewery.
Yes, no, that's still on my number one list. It's on the list.
It's on the list.
Right, here's my final question for you, and then we'll do a wrap up. What are the top Google searches in the last 4 weeks? And I will give you, for each one, I will give you, when I do see you, I will practice social distancing, but I'll do it in a way that benefits us both. Right.
Okay. How to cook food?
Yes. So how to make bread? We'll use that one. There you go.
Yeah. Another one. How to clean?
No.
I guess everybody seems to leave. Oh, all right.
3 wrong in a row, then you're out of the game. I'm a tough person.
Host.
Wanker.
Flunker, more like wanker, but that's a. What else is there? What else could people be really
searching on Google?
Well, obviously, COVID stats.
Nope. No, that isn't one of them, which is very surprising. That's two X's. One more X, and we're almost at 4 X's.
4 X's.
We got one. That's
pretty good for 3 guesses. 1 out of 3.
Latvian lover. Come on, you Latvian lover. Come on.
Jeez. Oh, what would people be doing?
Cheese. No, cheese isn't on it.
No, I didn't say cheese. Yeah. Anyway, man, you're not giving me much time to think here, mate. This is very very sudden and very flustered, and I'm done with you on the question, mate.
Feet, are you?
Um,
I can tell by the Right, I'm going to tell you some because there's some interesting ones. 3 X's. You've been. X Factor is not for you, my friend. X Factor is not for you. So the top Google searches, according to Google,
according to Google,
are how to cut your own hair.
Oh yeah.
How to make beer. Good one. I like that. I'll invest in that. Is Disney World really closed?
Yes, it is, because I got a friend who works there.
That is one of the most top. That is just unreal. Who the hell is searching to see if Disney World is really closed?
Kids.
Jeez. No way. How to work out at home. What to do about cabin fever. Thought you would have got that one. Is marriage necessary? Oh, when I saw that, I just actually we shouldn't laugh really because
there's been a lot of domestic abuse because of and many actually in fact so many divorces happen, especially in China when they finished their lockdown early. There was a lot of people that went to the to go get divorced straight after that. They just went straight there because
it's crazy, like just how it's an interesting point, like how domestic violence has gone up, and it kind of it doesn't baffle me, but it scares me that people are so out of tune of their true, like, have you heard of the idea of a true and false self? Yeah, so like when people get angry and kind of react in a negative way, that is your false self. But a lot of people are unable to kind of garnish or understand or have self-reflection to know that, so they just see it as normal reactions. Whereas during a normal true self moment, you should be able to catch yourself and be like, oh yeah, no, this isn't right, this isn't the way to go forwards, I need to take a step back. And because people are unable to attune themselves to their true self, we are seeing this kind of craziness in terms of people lashing out and making rash decisions.
I think there's also a lot of dysfunctional. It just shows how many families are out there dysfunctionally staying together. How much dysfunction there is in these relationships that they have. And how widespread it still is. That sort of mentality you would think would have been back, the previous few generations back, where your mum and your dad would stay together because that's just the way things are. Once you marry, you don't just break up. You don't move on. But it still seems to happen even in today's world, where people are staying together for all sorts of reasons, and until they're forced to sit in the room together or sit in the house together, they don't truly understand how dysfunctional they are until they shown to sit in the room together and figure out if they are working out or not. And so in so many cases we've seen that it's just not the case.
Well, it also shows that marriage, to be in a marriage, you need to have that gift of being able to sustain a relationship. Like, I believe, when I say have the gift, it's not like it's a God-given gift where you have it from birth.
What do you mean?
That's why you're single, right?
Not
that. Yeah, not.
Don't have the gift now
from birth, but it's more the fact that it's something that you learn. It's a trait that you learn and you shouldn't just throw it out at the first sign of displeasure or anything like that. And it's taken me a long time to kind of realize that. I still have blowout arguments with my wife. I still find myself getting very stressed out in certain situations.
Dare you?
I know. Look, perfection was one thing that I crossed off my list a long time ago. Believe me.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that's. What was the initial question again?
Oh, it was the Google searches. We went on the tangent, but tangents are good. Right, closing up the first episode of Chatting Up the Chick. Phil. What is your closing remarks? Do you have any beautiful words of wisdom for our listeners? Have you got one of those? Yeah, you could be.
Cookie.
The Beatles. Have you got any words of wisdom? I was going to say a euphoric state of mind that you can pass on to our listeners.
Right. Man, I think with in relevance to this topic, I think like you said previously, I think it's important after even if New Zealand now is going into level 3, meaning there's a bit more freedom to walk around and interact, I guess, and be. I think it'd be foolish, and I think it'd be interesting to see how we react as a community, I guess, and see, what the numbers of confirmed cases, do with this COVID. But yeah, I think it's important to remain still relatively away from each other, even with all this, even when we go into level 3, and even further on to level 2. I think it's even then it still would be a threat, because we wouldn't want further spread or further growth of this epidemic to continue, purely because there's a lot of individuals in our community that if they get exposed to it, it's pretty much a one-way trip for them. Where, like, for myself, I would like to think that I'll be okay with it, but I'm exposed to other individuals around me that I know that wouldn't be. So I think it's important to stay away from each other, essentially, when we go to level 3 or level 2, until we know absolutely for sure that this thing is squashed, essentially. But yeah, stay home.
Couldn't have said it better myself, mate. Well, yeah, I could have, but I can't be asked, to be honest. So
It's the most nice thing you ever said to me until you laughed and said you could.
Oh, behave, you Latvian lover. Right, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. As I always like to sign off, live well, love well, and dance well. Yes, yes. Cha-ching!
Bye-bye.